Is WWF Raw for the Super Nintendo a straight-laced wrestling simulation, or the gaming equivalent of a neon-lit carnival sideshow where physics checks in its coat at the door? Rhetorical question? You already know the answer. Picture a ring so springy it might be rented from Acme, movesets that leave Newton spinning in his grave, and a live from Manhattan Center veneer squeezed into 4 megabytes of ROM. It's that rare beast that manages to be giddily over the top and fiercely competitive at the same time, like strapping a jetpack to a chessboard. Underrated? In parts? Overrated? Occasionally. Crucial? If you care about the messy adolescence of wrestling games, absolutely. If not, there's always Skee-Ball. But you're still reading, so don't pretend you'd rather be rolling wooden spheres. Giant clown shoes, tombstones that double as catapults, and a crowd that chants "Raw, raw" like a boot-looping speak and spell. It's all here, begging for a fresh look 3 decades on. Historical context. Let's warp back to late 1994, a lovely purgatory where arcades boomed, cartridges still ran the show, and grunge had not yet ceded to boy band serotonin. Super Metroid had just made grown gamers tear up over a larval alien sacrifice. Don't play coy, we all blubbered. Donkey Kong Country convinced us pre-rendered bananas were photorealistic, and Final Fantasy VI taught us nihilism could fit on a 24 megabit cart. Meanwhile on cable, the World Wrestling Federation was mid-mold. Hulkamania's Dayglow aura was fading. Bret Hitman Hart's pink and black technician chic reigned, and no one had uttered the words Attitude Era outside a marketing meeting. Monday evenings belonged to WWF Monday Night Raw, broadcast from the Manhattan Center, the Mid-Hudson, or whichever small arena would tolerate a crane camera and a ban on confetti cannons. Acclaim Entertainment, through its rainbow-badged LJN label on Nintendo consoles, smelled synergy. Super WrestleMania 1992 had laid groundwork. Royal Rumble 1993 had refined it, and WWF Raw was positioned as the trilogy's crescendo. Bigger sprites, more wrestlers, and enough Mode 7 flourishes to make a Sega kid's eyes water. Developed by Sculptured Software in Salt Lake City, the game launched in North America in November 94 and in PAL territories a few snowflakes later. Other platforms, Genesis, Game Boy, Game Gear, even the 32X, received parallel ports, but the SNES edition remains the flagship thanks to its gaudy color depth and that unmistakable faux digitized Vince McMahon bark greeting you at the title screen. Seriously, crank your CRT, you'll hear Mr. McMahon's larynx compress into 8 kilohertz and never sleep again. My first brush came courtesy of the local Blockbuster. XP Arcade down the street didn't stock console carts, where Raw was shelved next to Clay Fighter 2 and a copy of Ninja Scroll someone had forgotten to rewind. I snagged it for a sleepover, squeezed a multi-tap into the SNES's lonely controller port, and learned 2 truths by sunrise. Thumb calluses are a badge of honor, and when The Undertaker's mega move works, it launches Razor Ramon so high he risks colliding with the Mode 7 audience banner. We played until the mini fridge surrendered its last Capri Sun, transmuting our collective sugar high into a 4-player Royal Rumble cacophony that probably shortened the console's lifespan. Sorry, Mom. Timing was sly. Sony's PlayStation lurked on the horizon like a polygonal big boss, but 3D had not yet reached living rooms en masse. On TV, Raw faced no Nitro competition. Nitro would not debut until September 95. Naming a game WWF Raw in 94 felt hip, like capturing live TV's spontaneity in cart form. Acclaim's marketing promised the fiercest, most accurate action ever, but Sculptured's designers had a different agenda. They buried accuracy beneath spectacle, ensuring no one could claim false advertising while simultaneously handing players something utterly bonkers: mechanics. Alright, tighten your laces, we're stepping through the ropes. WWF Raw runs on a lock-up tug-of-war system. Collide sprites, watch a horizontal meter appear, and mash buttons until your half fills with patriotic hues signifying dominance. Some claim technique beats mashing. Those people are liars with ice in their thumbs. With the Grapple 1, directional plus button inputs trigger moves. Shawn Michaels hits sweet chin music. Diesel hoists a jackknife powerbomb. Bret Hart clamps on that oh-so-satisfying sharpshooter rendered in 6 glorious frames. Each wrestler carries hidden stats: speed, strength, stamina, weight that tangibly affect outcomes. The 1-2-3 kid zips like a caffeinated ferret, Yokozuna lumbers but hits like a meteor, and Luna Vachon's balance attributes belie her status as the Federation's first female console combatant. But you came for excess, so let's talk Mega Moves, our absurd guiding light. These are cinematic finishers mapped to shoulder buttons plus direction, and they do not obey the Geneva Convention of gravity. Undertaker summons paranormal juice, hoisting foes skyward past the Titantron equivalent until they vanish off screen and plummet like Acme anvils. Doink whips out carnival dark arts, inflating opponents into beach balls before spike slamming them. Yokozuna becomes a boulder of raw mass, rolling the ring like Indiana Jones gone sumo. They're overpowered, delightfully silly, and accompanied by a dramatic dimming of arena lights as if the SNES briefly thinks it's auditioning for an episode of Dragon Ball Z. The basic combat loop, grapple, move, reposition, might read repetitive on paper, yet in play it feels like analog jazz. Irish whips rebound opponents off ropes for clotheslines or back body drops. Timing drop kicks to intercept a rebound at mid-screen delivers dopamine normally reserved for parrying missiles and side-scrollers. Springing to the top turnbuckle, hold A while pushing toward the corner, sacrifice a goat, pray. Unleashes aerial assaults that, if reversed, see your pixel hero pancake the mat face first. Tag team psychology matters. Fresh partners rejuvenate stamina if you manage the hot tag animation without getting intercepted. Survivor Series elimination matches become wars of attrition. Don't tag Diesel at 5% health unless you want him folded like an accordion. The control scheme is labyrinthine by modern standards. Irish whips map to Y plus B, running requiring A plus direction, climbing the top rope involving L plus R if Mercury is in retrograde, but there's method in the madness. Sculptured leverage every SNES button, turning short hop reversals and crowd taunts into micro rhythms within matches. Once muscle memory fuses with synapse, you'll stuff suplex attempts, convert them into snap DDTs, and nail a flying elbow while the crowd, a smear of Mode 7 heads, cycles between 4 frames of applause. It's tactile in that sticky controller sense. Palms sweat, D-pad squeal, but intensity is the point. Wrestling without friction is just mocap ballet. Match types add seasoning, one-on-one, and tag team cover basics. Bedlam, a tornado tag free-for-all, fills the ring with 4 bodies and accentuates chaos. Friendly fire dropkicks included. Survivor Series strings 8 grapplers into elimination strings. The screen tumbles into 16-bit mayhem when a legal wrestler desperately drags him or herself to their corner while an illegal Diesel taps his foot on the apron. Royal Rumble is peak party mode. 6 wrestlers on screen, up to 4 controlled by humans thanks to the SNES multi-tap, with over-the-top rope eliminations emulating the TV spectacle. The frame rate occasionally buckles like a cheap folding chair, but no one notices when Bret Hart and Razor Ramon simultaneously cling to ropes like 2 D-cats escaping bathwater. Raw endurance, hidden behind a few menu flips, pits your 4-wrestler squad against 2 successive CPU teams, turning stamina conservation into weaponized panic. Weapons, they're conveniently stationed ringside from bell time. Steel chair, 20-gallon bucket, Doink's signature. Random hardware Vince probably expensed, ready for any soul bold enough to slip under the ropes. Knock out the referee and suddenly the rulebook evaporates. Choking, eye gouges, headbutts become legal until the striped shirt awakes, or you bash him again. Digital malpractice, sure, but we were kids. And yes, the ref lies prone long enough to finish a Capri Sun. Audio deserves equal reverence. Each wrestler's entrance theme compresses into jaunty 20-second wave fragments. Razor Ramon's Latin guitar riff still oozes swagger through SNES PCM. Undertaker's funeral bells echo under crunchy samples. Doink's circus ditty weaponizes whimsy and dread simultaneously. Homie invented clowncore. The in-match BGM alternates between thrashing electric guitar midis and crowd chants that loop raw, raw, at volumes just shy of tinnitus. Sure, the sampled voices crackle like an AM radio, but that texture glues memory to experience, much like vinyl pops can elevate a Miles Davis solo. Graphically, Raw flexes the SNES's 256 color mode. Wrestler portraits on the select screen feel ripped from WWF magazine pinups. Bret adjusts mirrored shades. Shawn talks tosses hair, Yokozuna glares as though a buffet just closed. In ring, sprites measure around 70 pixels tall, dwarfing Royal Rumble's smaller frames. Animation counts grew, affording individualized strikes. The Undertaker's thrusting uppercut, Luna's overhead chops, and Bam Bam Bagalo's cartwheeling elbow that reminds everyone a 390-pounder can still circus act. The background sells the Manhattan Center's red brick aesthetic via dithering. Kids today call it pixel art. That red raw banner coasts along the guardrail on a Mode 7 loop, hypnotizing anyone with a penchant for parallax. Let's highlight the roster. Bret Hart, Owen Hart, The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Diesel, Razor Ramon, Lex Luger, Yokozuna, Bam Bam Bigelow, Doink, 1-2-3 Kid, and Luna Vachon, the dozen gladiators of this 16-bit Coliseum. It's the best cross-section of WWF's new generation before the roster splintered. Technical icons, muscle titans, clown anarchists, and the first female wrecking ball. Each is mega move references, kayfabe quirks. Razor's last ride, sidestep punch, sends foes ricocheting like pachinko. Luna's diving headbutt is a mid-air torpedo that would earn Chris Benoit's nod of respect. Owen Hart's wheel kick gains extra hang time because little brothers everywhere needed a power fantasy. The moment-to-moment fun ties back to that single ridiculous idea, mega moves as equalizer. You can play textbook wrestling, chain grapple into back suplex, working the leg for a sharpshooter finish, or you can wait for the right spacing to hit Undertaker's supernatural catapult and fling Diesel high enough to strike a hypothetical ceiling rafter. Matches teeter between strategy and slapstick. It's like toggling between Fire Pro's stoic sim and Mutant League Football's gleeful carnage with a single shoulder button. Legacy and influence today, Raw sits at an odd crossroads in wrestling game genealogy. It's the final WWF title sculptured software developed for 16-bit consoles, closing the book on LJN's colorful SNES tenure before Acclaim pivoted to early 3D efforts, WWF Warzone on PlayStation, and the license shuffled toward THQ and AKI on the N64. Those future classics would refine unique attributes, variable grapples, and analog counters, but Raw planted prototypes, call them proto-systems, years prior. Its tug-of-war meter, while simple, foreshadows the momentum shifts Yuke's later map to analog sticks. Varied stats and movesets, Diesel's reach, 1-2-3 Kid speed, prefigured WCW 1NWO Revenge's exhaustive grapple tree where Kevin Nash felt tangibly different from Rey Mysterio. Meanwhile, mega moves prove fans would embrace cartoon exaggeration inside a sports veneer, paving the runway for Midway's WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game, digitized sprites breathing literal fire, and years later, EA's Def Jam series where rappers German suplexed each other through chop shops. Yet Raw never cracked mainstream memory like No Mercy or Here Comes the Pain. Partly timing, 1994's consumer eye pivoted toward polygons. Partly association, LJN's Rainbow had become a scarlet letter after an avalanche of Rush tie-ins. Partly the game's own identity crisis. Half simulation, half cartoon. Collectors now covet the SNES cart for two prime reasons: Luna Vachon's historic inclusion and the kaleidoscope mania of mega moves that spawn endless meme gifs. ROM hackers still mod new wrestlers. Kota Ibushi moonsaulting off a 16-bit turnbuckle is a sight to behold. And speedrunners chase fast as Royal Rumble clear categories where Undertaker tosses 5 CPUs in 19 seconds of turbo mashing. Academically, RAW also occupies a fascinating threshold. It's the last major Western wrestling title to rely entirely on 2D sprites. Japan's Fire Pro lineage kept that torch alive, but in North America, every post-1994 console release pivoted to digitized captures or raw polygons. Culturally, we can trace modern intergender options in WWE games back to Luna's breakout. For years, mainstream wrestling titles segregated rosters. Today, 2K's offerings include My Faction modes, where Rhea Ripley powerbombs Edge on equal footing, and Raw deserves at least a footnote in that lineage. Did the devs set out to make history? Probably not. They needed a 12th slot, and Luna was feuding with Doink on Monday nights. But representation often arrives via budgetary happenstance, and we celebrate the outcome all the same. So where does WWF Raw on SNES land in the cosmic rankings of squared circle cartridges? It's a paradox, both raucous party game and earnest attempt at at depth, a conduit for nostalgia, and a blueprint for future mechanics. A simulation with a clown inflation button. Boot it up today, hook 4 controllers, and expect your living room to devolve into screeching one-liners about suplex altitude and clown physics. Then realize you're describing professional wrestling in 2025 just as accurately. For its balanced blend of spectacle, surprising nuance, first ever female inclusion, and audio-visual flair, in spite of its occasionally creaky frame rate and a control scheme that could double as safety prep, WWF Raw body slams its way to a solid accolade. Final score, 7.5 out of 10.